I'm an American entrepreneur, and I'm a talk radio host. I'm a very passionate guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I say what I feel. So we're going to have a lively discussion, and I really enjoyed coming up here today because I was told that this is a really feisty group. Okay, so I'm a talk radio guy, but I'm not Jerry Springer. Okay, so we're gonna keep it civil, but we're gonna really talk the issues. And I know it's not easy coming on. We just had lunch, and everyone's kind of falling asleep here. But get revved up because these issues are very, very important that we're going to talk about. And first of all, a little bit about my background. I lived in Asia for 25 years, and I came back to the United States. I never lived in Florida, but I decided that I would base my companies here. And first of all, I would like to thank the godfather of Florida trade, Manny Mencia, for inviting me to talk here. And one thing that I learned to be successful in international trade in Florida, whenever I see Manny, I've got to make sure I run over and kiss his ring. Okay? So remember that. You want to be successful here. Yes, I have a talk radio show, and it was pretty amazing how that came about. I'm not going to bore you with the details. But one thing leads to another. I lived in Asia. I got very frustrated as an American exporter. I came back home, and I decided I wanted to try to get a message out there that wasn't being carried by the mainstream media. And I started to write, and my articles began getting picked up. And one thing led to another, and lo and behold, I have a nationally syndicated radio show. And I'm on the #1 talk station in Washington, D.C. So that gives me access to all kinds of people. But just last week, I had a really cool interview. And it was with the president of the American University of Afghanistan in Kabul, Dr. Michael Smith. And you know what he told me? He told me that the #1 degree in Kabul for their university is entrepreneurialism. They offer many things. And the #2 degree is accounting. So even the students in war-torn, ravaged, devastated and dangerous Afghanistan understand plugging into the global economy is the success of their nation. I mean, isn't that fantastic? I'm going to just tell you a couple of things about my company, if I can figure out how to do this, which I guess I cannot. Oops. Okay, the legacy companies. I'm the president of the owner of legacy companies. We're manufacturers and exporters of commercial food service equipment and high-end kitchen appliances and gadgets sold in retail, internet, and health and nutrition markets around the world. We export to 130 countries. In 2008, we were the United States National Champion Exporter of the Year, a very high distinction in our country for companies engaged in international trade. And quite unbelievable that we're the first Florida company to get that award. You would think here in Florida that there would be many national champions over the years. But the legacy companies is a collection of businesses that I have bought and acquired over the years. And I'm just going to tell you about one of them, is Omega. Omega introduced the juicer to the United States back in the 1940s. And they're very well known in that market. I don't know if anyone here does wheatgrass, but we have the #1 machine in the world for that. I bought the company. I think I'm going to live 20 years older and more because I'm going to do wheatgrass for the next 50 years, right? So I guess it was a good investment for my health. But just like a lot of companies, about 8 years ago, Omega, before I acquired it, moved their production to China and to Korea. You hear that story all the time. But I've really taken a close look at this. And we're in the process of moving Omega back to Fort Pierce here in Florida. And we're doing it not just because it's the right thing to do, but it is financially the responsible thing to do. Because it just makes sense. Americans are very efficient if they're just given a chance. If they're just given a chance to compete. I want to tell you just a little bit about conscientious equity. One thing leads to another. I wrote a book, and lo and behold, Macmillan Press just acquired it. And it's going to come out in October. It's called Conscientious Equity, an American Entrepreneur Solutions to the World's Greatest Problems. So I analyzed what was going on around us here in the United States with our economic challenges and job creation, but much bigger than that. I mean, the social ills that are impacting the world. You know, I lived in Asia. I mean, I witnessed poverty and corruption like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it was just part of my life. You get sucked into it. And poverty and corruption, the rape of our environment, labor rights and human rights. So I just applied simple, common sense, American entrepreneurial logic to these problems, and wow, I solved them. In 300 pages, 75,000 words, I solved the world's greatest problems by applying simple logic, American entrepreneurial logic. And I did it without raising taxes. And can you imagine that if the 50 United States were countries, 24 of them would be the highest tax countries in the world. And we still want to raise taxes. I did that without increasing our deficit. In fact, I've reduced it. We are going to have the historic recalculation of our tax base. We're going to be able to pay for all these things, like our crumbling infrastructure, our failing schools, and renewable energy, by not raising deficits. But you know, conscientious equity just unleashes the power of the American entrepreneur, this untapped reservoir of power that we have in our midst. And such incredible things happen. But you know, I'm going to talk today a little bit about the structural and the inspirational. We talked a lot really about the structural, and we've heard about it. But I got to tell you, this free trade thing is getting worn out. The demagoguery on the other side has convinced the American people, Main Street America, that trade is not good for them. And the immutable, indisputable facts is the contrary. Now, whatever you want to use, and I'm not going to recite a lot here, but out of our 17 free trade agreements that we currently have, we have a trade surplus with these countries. Mexico buys more American products than China and Japan combined. We have a trade agreement with Mexico. Colombia, we heard a lot about Colombia. 93% of Colombian exports into the United States duty-free. They have done so for the last 18 years. And the last time it was up for renewal in 2007, 365 members of the Congress voted to extend their duty-free access to the United States. But this Congress will not give me access to Colombia. Can you imagine? And the one that really bothers me, and they all bother me, but 54,288 Americans died for the freedom of South Korea. Yet, we will not give South Korea the freedom to trade with us. Is that not a travesty? And then who in the world can have anything to do with Panama? Why do we have anything against them? And the thing that really bugs me as an American entrepreneur that could create more jobs if you just let me, is that we are not getting to the most important issues. What to do about China, India, Brazil, and so on. Japan, and so on. Because we are so sidetracked by all this stuff. So conscientious equity gets us to the next level. I'm just going to tell you just very briefly about two Freedmans. One Freedman of the New York Times wrote a book called The World is Flat. Well, I wrote an article called The World is Tilted. Mr. Freedman suggests that the world has become a smaller place because of the rapid advancement of information technologies, and it's created this level playing field. Well, the concept of a flat world today is just as wrong metaphorically as when it was proven wrong by Copernicus. Mr. Freedman has never exported or sold anything in his life. For if he did, he would know that the world trading system, the topography of the world trading system, is full of insuperable mountains and rushing rivers and shifting sands. The world trading system is tilted. Our trading partners have tilted trade away from us and towards them. And we have an $800 billion trade deficit to prove it. And then there's the other Mr. Friedman, Mr. Milton Friedman, and Capitalism and Freedom. He wrote, any trade agreement is a good trade agreement. It should not matter if they give us reciprocal rights to their markets. They're going to send us, and he used the example of Japan, they're going to send us all of this stuff. They're going to send us televisions and stereos and cars. and we're going to send to them our paper. We're going to give them paper, and they're going to give us really cool things. But you know, the Japanese can't eat this paper, they can't live in this paper, and they can't even wear this paper. So what are they going to do with it? They're going to eventually have to come back and buy things from us. But what Mr. Friedman did not realize is that they would come back, but they would buy our debt. They would not buy our products, exerting even more pressure on the United States. So I'm not going to go through any more of conscientious equity, only to tell you, in a world of conscientious equity, conscientious because it is the right thing to do, in equity because we all have ownership in doing the right thing, but a world of conscientious equity is good for us and for all citizens of the world. And if you want to know anything more, you have to wait until October and shell out $26.95.